Hello, Nissy. How are you today? Hey, Randall, how are you? Are you on a run, Randall, or are you free right now? Well, hello, Mark the Vicar. You're not knighted. We need to knight you. I now declare you a knight of the rhomboid table. There, now you can post a link to your channel if you have one, or advertise any good sites you know. Always feel free to advertise your channel or somebody else's channel as long as it's model train or hobby related. It's a beautiful day outside, so I'm in my basement running trains. I didn't really run my trains a lot last night, so oh, I'm sorry to hear your father's in the hospital, Randall. But just making sure a couple of trains are working after I derailed one stupidly yesterday early in the chat when I first started running them. One of my automated switches open, and this is the problem with automation. They can sometimes, you turn the power on and it activates, and I didn't notice. But everybody's running smoothly right now. I've even got my little Beethoven locomotive out running. But running mostly my Märklin trains today. Of course, 90% of my trains are Märklin. The only one that's not Märklin is that Austrian Railjet way in the back. That's a Roco. I don't know who knows the German companies. I only know the German companies. I know the name of some American companies. But, and I know the two main UK companies, or at least main producers for the UK. I mean, I also know there's Helgen and Daypole, but basically Hornby and Bachmann own the model train industry in the United Kingdom. Hello, Animal Planet India. Welcome to my channel. Hopefully you're here for trains. Well, hi, Andy Ambrose. Nice to have you here. But yes, this is a railjet. This is Austria. If you don't know, or you've never heard me go through my trains, that is the Austrian high-speed train, and they are gorgeous in person and inside. The first class sections inside, which aren't super expensive. They're pricier than normal, obviously first class, but you can do a long distance run in first class for under $100. Several hours first class for under $100 for a first class seat. Even less if you get the sales. But they're gorgeous. They're amazingly beautiful trains inside. The second class seats are something else. They're as much as I love German trains, I might say the rail jets are nicer. I won't say the rail jets are my favorite train, but they're probably my favorite train. I just hesitate saying it because of my my affinity to Germany, although Austrian is German too. But they're just gorgeous trains. But I love my ICEs, the German high-speed trains, which it just went by as well. But when it comes to combination of the quality of seating and the quality of livery, I think the railjet wins. Although I love the ICE's basic white with the red speed stripe down it. Hi Lee, how are you? Oh, he has a UTI. Actually, Joyce just had a UTI this week, and she's been a trooper about it, but she was in a lot of pain and discomfort for a couple of days. Okay, so that's working. Actually, Andy, Lee is an Everton fan. He's not a Liverpool fan. I, on the other hand, am a Liverpool fan, and I'm happy with the score. In case you never saw in the background here, Lee is not a Liverpool fan. Jackie is a Liverpool fan, but Lee is not. We forgive Lee for this, and we tolerate Lee for this. But he is not a Liverpool fan. Now, I'm highly disappointed with the season. I really am starting to think they've had a crap load of injuries, especially in their back line, which when Virgil van Dijk's not there does not play well. But they've had so many issues, and Klopp has not helped the situation. Oh, Joyce is already better, Randall. Okay, she's better. She didn't need to be in the hospital. Sadly, I don't have a camera on the best. I don't have a camera of the best feature of my train table, which is straight on the bus station and the station. Because this station, for those of you that really don't know much about my layout, the station is a 100% accurate recreation of the train station at the city of Delmenhorst. All right, not 100%. Let's say 90%, because the platforms are not proper scale length, just because I couldn't fit them in. But the bus station and the train station are scratch-built, complete recreations of the actual city of Delmenhorst, which is not exactly a tourist destination for anybody in Germany, but it's a city I ran an exchange program with for 15 years. Well, not 15 years, 13 years. And would still be running an exchange program with if my school hadn't changed and suddenly we lost a lot of kids that would have gone to Germany. But this white, if you've never heard me talk about before, the German railway system is typical German. It's very organized. Germany has two types of trains, well, three. There is high-speed passenger, there is commuter, and then there's freight. Now, Germany controls all the federal government of Germany controls and regulates all the trains, but they alone operate the high-speed trains. And all high-speed trains in Germany, except for Euro cities, have to be white with a red stripe. And then there's, it's like everything's divided into groups of two. There are two types of high-speed trains in Germany. There is the ICE, Intercity Express, which are these, really the high-speed cars like that just went through single-decker. And then there is the, let's see, will I catch it at a time? And then there's this. This is an IC. Now, the IC or Intercity, they go slower, they make more stops, but they're still high speed. And there are single-deckers pulled by a locomotive and double-deckers pulled by a locomotive. That's how you tell an ICE from an IC. The ICE has cab cars at each end. The ICs, slightly slower trains, have locomotives. But they'll always be white with a red stripe. So all high-speed traffic is white with a red stripe, except things run by other countries going through Germany. Like the Euro cities, which can be any color, depending on the country. Basically, each country has its own. Hey, welcome within the Oval. Yes, I love the Railjet. Hey, Mystic Southern Railway is here. Nice to have you. And then, so that's the high-speed traffic, which is completely controlled by the federal government. Then the federal government runs commuter traffic, which will always be red with a white or yellow stripe. The yellow stripe indicating first class, like it does in many countries. And then they'll all be pulled by locomotives, although there are diesel DMUs as well. But if it's run by the German federal government, it'll be red and then have the white or yellow stripe across the top. So you can see one going through here, and then the diesel locomotive will be coming up. The DMU is coming up in the background. But then there's also private company commuter. And I'm not running any private commuters right now. Everything I'm running, except for the Railjet, is federal German rail trains. But, so if you see a yellow train, or, like the Metronome is yellow with blue highlights, The Alex is green with white stripes. There's the middle Rheinbahn, which is white or gray. There's the Südbayerische Bahn, the Southern Bavarian Bahn, which is a sky blue color. I now declare you a knight of the rhomboid table. So there, within the oval, if you have a page and you want to advertise it, go ahead. I give everybody the royal spanner so that you can advertise or promote your channel and see if you can drum up some subscribers, new viewers. So if I go to, let's see, this camera. Yeah, in this camera, in the background, you can see my yellow double-decker metronome, which, and then you can also see my green Alex. The metronome, all the private companies are regionalized. The German federal train system operates throughout the country, but all the private companies are regional. So like the yellow metronome operates in and out of the Hamburg area and to some of the bigger hubs closest to Hamburg. And again, you'd have to have a map of Germany up, and I could like kind of demonstrate it, but you're probably not that interested. And then the Alex operates from Munich across southern Germany, in and out of Munich basically. And they go a fairly long distance. They go, for example, we rode an Alex train from Baden-Württemberg to Kempten as it was on its way, or from the city of Lindau to Kempten. And then it goes the rest of the way to Munich from Kempten. Joyce did not like the riding on the Alex. She did not like it so much that when I wanted to get a train of the Alex, she it was one of the few times she's like, you don't need that train. You don't need it. We only rode it once. You don't need it. And I was like, but everybody says I need a green train, honey. And she finally caved in. It makes everybody sound bad, but no. She really did not like the Alex because the cars are basically older German Federal Railway cars that they've retired, and Alex buys them and cleans them up a bit, but they're old and they're rickety. They're not in great shape. The windows don't always open like they should. The air blowers and heaters don't necessarily work as well as they should because Alex buys them on the cheap and puts minimum work on them. But Joyce hated the diesel smell. I have freight. Yeah, Mystic. I know you're not. I know you come a lot to the channel, and I do occasionally run freight. I have one freight train, and right now it's up on a shelf. And when I run it, I bring the cars down and run it. And that was Joyce's idea. I would never. Seriously, I would never have bought a freight train on my own. For Christmas, Joyce wanted to surprise me, so she bought me a freight locomotive and a bunch of freight cars and she said, you need a freight train. Because I'm looking at it like, this is cool, but why'd you buy me a freight train? You needed a freight train. But I don't do freight. I'm a passenger car guy. She's like, you needed a freight train. So I have a freight train, and I have some freight cars. I do run it, and probably it was on the track about 4 weeks ago. So if you go back to like my Friday live streams, number 57, 58, I think it was on recently. Hi, Wimble Train, welcome. Hi, Tim. Yeah, it's a surprise. It's a beautiful day outside. Joyce and I did some gardening last night, and I need to mow the lawn, but Joyce is gone for the morning and part of the afternoon. She's helping her brother. All her siblings are together helping her brother. And, you know, I was so caught up in the whole Matt Clark finale yesterday, I really didn't run my trains, and I was so distracted, I forgot I opened a turnout when I was changing trains around, and I forgot to close it until my trains bumped, so I was running them to make sure everything was okay, which they are, no problems. But yeah, I left the switch open. Oops. And I just took the one train off and closed the switch and ran some trains, but I didn't really work with the trains. I babbled about the Matt Clark stuff and my issues. So I thought today I'd run some trains, and anytime I'm down here running trains, I say, I wonder if anybody's around. Click, and I'm on to talk to people. So, so I thought I'd focus on trains today. So just, you know, run my trains, talk to trains. If you don't know, oh, this is your, aha, there you go. Well, that's why you weren't knighted. It's Christopher with your new channel. I didn't catch your name change. Is this a totally new channel, or is it a name change on your old channel? Because you still should have been knighted. Because, yeah, I've seen you've been getting into the American trains. Hey, Kevin, how are you? No, Christopher, dude, I miss talking to you. And I know you're on, Discord. And I'm trying to keep up with what you're doing when you post on Facebook, which is all the American train stuff. But I can't get onto I can get onto Discord, and my computer, which is always on, will tell people I'm on Discord, but I'm really not. But I go to bed so early. I go to bed 8:30, 9 o'clock American time. And so, and through the afternoon I'm working. I can't stay up as late like I used to a few months ago when I was teaching from home. All right, well, I will go back and subscribe to it. See, that's what I hate about YouTube's new format. Hey, Colin, nice to have you here. Hey, Colin, I want to, just because everything's always black and white print and never want to read too much into it. Colin, we were laughing. Joyce and I were laughing when you wrote that comment on the last episode. It was like, damn, this guy is really on to it. He's on it, that you were able to pretty much predict the whole ending. Now, granted, a lot of people were, there were people back in episode 9 and 10 going, don't have Smokey be the hero. Don't have Smokey be the hero. I hate Smokey. Don't let Smokey be the hero at the end. And it's like, well, that was always part, you know, when I talk about the writing, and I mean, I'll talk about it, but when I introduced Smokey in scene 2, but I had already created Smokey, even in that live stream when Randall Ellison got me going on the whole Matt Clark shtick. When I created the character as the 8-year-old know-it-all from that first episode, A, I knew he was going to have all those psycho problems that he demonstrated through, and B, he was going to be the reluctant hero at the end, so to speak. That last scene, other than a few added jokes, the scene that you saw last night was basically as written, with the exception of we hadn't decided which characters were going to die or not. But we knew exactly that there was going to be the big gunfight. There was going to be it's not a Gatling gun, it's a Mitrailleuse, the old French and Prussian Gatling gun. We knew that was going to be in there. We knew there'd be a gunfight. I knew most of the villains were going to get killed. Originally, I had Matt Clark was going to kill Bobby, but I decided the way I did it was so much cooler. Funny in a way. Hey, Jackie. Oh, Jackie, this is 2 months of you not feeling well. We need to get you healthy. I don't know what it is. We need to get you healthy. I don't know if it's to just put headphones on and go for a walk and blast some happy Beatles tunes or Jerry and the Pacemakers or maybe some good punk rock. But we got to get you feeling better or pump you full of meds. But, so yeah, so we knew that was going to happen. That was the scene. And it was going to happen exactly, at least with Bobby, not Bobby, with Smokey. It was going to happen that way. And I was dropping some hints like, a character we haven't seen in a while will make a return, because he was missing for about 5 scenes. But yeah. Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin can perk you up too. Any music can perk you up if it's what you're into. And the funny thing is, I got a couple of emails last night and this morning, a couple of Facebook comments, Facebook Messenger from friends in Germany or friends from the UK or people that I don't know. Some giving me the, you suck, you're not funny. But several people were like, I'm so glad Bill got away. I'm so glad Bill got away. And I'm like, and again, now he's Four-Finger Bill. I still tend to call him Five-Finger Bill, but technically now he's Four-Finger Bill. Bill is a cold-blooded killer, guys. And he's Joyce's favorite character. Joyce's favorite characters are Bill, and then Madame Lot, and then Lil. I think Lil is third. Jackie, you don't have to apologize. But like I was trying to tell Pete Clark online, man, he hasn't been feeling it, so he's staying offline. But, sometimes come in and just hang with people and have a laugh. You're not feeling the groove. You're like, oh man, I go on YouTube and this stuff all makes me feel bad. Go to somebody's live stream and just talk to the people. Get involved, talk, and it's never bad. Life of Brian, always look on the bright side of life. Life's a piece of shit when you look at it. But, that whole bit where Smokey holds them hostage, they're all tied up in the car, and they're like, Smokey, you gotta free us. And Smokey's like, you just wait a minute. I've been watching all the crap you do, and all you guys do is chase me off, blah, blah. Smokey do this, Smokey do that, Smokey no, Smokey... I want some answers, and I want them now. And, that scene was there from the beginning. Where he was going to hold them hostage and demand the answers. And maybe, at least right now, definitely one of my top favorite bits is sometimes the best joke is the joke you don't tell. You just give start of joke, end of joke, and let the audience fill the joke in. But I can't separate them. To me, it's all one bit. But when Diesel Dan is Smokey, now we need to... I swear to God, Diesel Dan, if you say we need to have a talk one more time, I will let you blow up. I love that. As soon as I wrote that line, I was in hysterics, and I still giggle at it. But then, when they get off the train, we have the cutback. And the mayor's like, well, Smokey. No, I'm starting too much like Matt. I'll keep a picture. I gotta find my Kentucky accent. Now, Smokey, you've had an hour of all. We have answered all your questions for an hour, Smokey. Now, the mayor says, okay, you've had an hour. We've answered every damn question you've had. Any more questions? And Smokey, and this really was more visual than vocal, but the image I have of Smokey's face, and Smokey going, no, Mayor. I think I want to go home to my mommy and daddy now. You don't know what was said, but I love the traumatized Smokey there at that bit. I loved creating the traumatized Smokey. Hey, Jean Ricard, how are you? What's the history of the orange buildings? Those are my 3D printed buildings that I need to take out to my garage and spray paint. Now that the weather's good, I should go out there and coat them. That's their history. They're going to be part of my Bremen build over here when I get around to actually building buildings again. And they need to go out to the garage and be primed and then painted. I just, in all the months they've been sitting there, have not moved them yet. So that's their story. I've had a few friends nag me. When are you going to paint the Orange City? Someday. That's my answer. Everybody, if your question begins with when, my answer is someday. I don't know what it is. When are you going to do this? Someday. When do you come to England? Someday. When do you get off your ass and mow the lawn? Someday. Can I show them close up? Well, yeah, kind of, sort of. Give me a second here. 11-lane camera is probably the best bet to do it. And let me turn this around. Sorry about that, I bumped something and had to make sure I didn't nail a train. Stay with me, work with me, work with me. There you go. So, yeah, that was them close up. And, so yeah, someday I will get around to painting them. I need to prime them, and then I got to go back to my Bremen pictures and try to color palette them. The problem, anybody who follows my channel knows, is that I have degenerative... I mean, it's not technically arthritis, but I call it arthritis. And it's something that runs in my family. My dad had it really bad. It kind of ended his electrician career early, and he had to go into other job. Handshakes. I'm left-handed. This is my left hand. If I hold that camera with my left hand, you guys would get seasick. I shake. It's made it very hard to build models. And the problem with anybody who has hand tremors or handshakes is sometimes you get a spasm and your hand goes whoop, and you drop stuff. If I'm holding larger power tools, it's okay. But if, like, I have a problem, like when I go to pick up my trains, I use two hands when I pick up my trains, because if I pick it up with one hand, there's a fear I might have a hand spasm and let it go and drop it. So I have several model buildings that I've had for the last 2 years that I really need to build, but it's getting harder and harder to hold small pieces together. And I use it more as a crutch than I should to explain why I'm not doing some work. But it's like I want to redo my Fowler car system. I need to get under the table, rip out all the wiring, and I have to do some soldering under the table for my Fowler car system to run the wires over to here where I can control them. And it's scary as much as difficult. It's not that difficult, but it's scary because 5-10 minutes into trying to do wirings, I've got a hot soldering iron and my hand is going like this everywhere. And I have to stop, rest for an hour, and then try to pick up where I left off. So, you know, it is what it is. I can't. Hey, Kieran, how are you? Yeah, a bunch of my cows got knocked down because I bumped the table there. So, yeah, kids went cow tipping. Actually, that's the cows that got blown up from the when the Black Mamba exploded in episode 17. That's where they landed. That's the remains of the Hell's Heifers gang. So those poor cows. Beef steak for everyone. But this is a railjet with a locomotive called the Taurus. This is the Taurus 1116. I've got a Taurus 1216 and an 1116. And my Beethoven, I think, is a Taurus 1016. Taurus is made by Siemens. But it doesn't say on the Beethoven locomotive, which went by a different camera. But my rail car's there. The red locomotive pulling the double-deckers, that is class 147. Not that you get a good view of the locomotive when it's going this way. But the 147... The 143 and the 147 are kind of the two primary commuter locomotives in Germany right now. The class 147 and 143. I think they still have some class 1. They just retired the 112 and they're pulling it out of service. The 120 did more high speed, but it's being decommissioned down to commuter traffic. And there you can see my Fowler car system. I mean, technically I could start the bus up, but all it would do is run an oval because I don't have it powered up. But he's supposed to pull in and go to the bus stop, stop at the bus stop. But I bought this fancy decoder from Fowler that was supposed to make controlling it easier and controlling it from my digital decoders at my control system super easy. And instead, it wouldn't read anything. It wasn't working. And then it wound up frying out a couple of the motors and things just kept going wrong and wrong. And I haven't touched it because I have to go under the table and rip everything out. I was going to do it over spring break, but spring break became a different project in the house. And so now it's just going to wait till the summer. But the funny thing is, my hand tremors, in the spring and summer, when I start doing more exercises, Joyce and I ride our bikes, Joyce and I go play tennis, I actually get a control on it better. During this, when it's just, I go to work, do my job, and sit down here and work on tedious things, those indoor projects, the tremors get worse. They do lessen a bit in the summer when I wound up going and doing more active things. How about running a Steuerwagen first for a change? You'd blow the synchrony of my trains running in opposite directions. Let's see how well. I'll run the Railjet. He's actually my best reverse runner. The other ones I don't always trust. Those Telex couplers. I'm going to double check something here, make sure there's nothing open that he would cross lanes on. No. Whoops. Probably don't want the view of my belly in there. So Jean is into Steuerwagen first. See, I'm not. I'm let the locomotive pull it. I don't think I have any good camera views for you to see it. Let's go to the DB4K. Now this is where I get nervous. Let me see if he handles it here. Yeah, he handled it like a pro. Ah, the ICE's blocking the view. All right, Nissy, thanks for popping in. That's too American. Oh, Jean Ricard, how dare you insult me? The vast majority of times I ride my trains in Germany that have locomotives, the locomotive is Poland. Yes, I have ridden Steuerwagen first a few times, but I'd still say 90% of the time when I'm on a German train that has a locomotive, the locomotive is Poling. Jackie, I am a Beatle maniac. The Beatles are my favorite rock band of all time. The greatest rock band of all time. Some people can like the Stones and think that the Stones and the Beatles were equal, but anybody who goes back knows the Beatles outsold them. The Beatles were more popular than the Stones. And the Stones, and I love a lot of Stones music. I won't say I like the Rolling Stones, but I like a lot of their songs. But the Stones were a one-trick pony. Keith Richards' guitar riff and a little bit of blues, and you know, the Stones get more credit. And there's been a lot of scandal in the news lately because Mick Jagger said something about the Beatles and the Stones, and Ringo said something back, and they were always good friends. They were always good friends, but apparently that's not necessarily true now. But so Paul said, everybody knows the Beatles were greater than the Stones, and Mick Jagger went off on a rant and really tore into the Beatles. So Paul and Ringo have fired back. Shots fired. So that's kind of been in the news lately. But I'm sorry, Mick. It was Brian Jones's band, and Keith Richards wrote most of the song. Rick, you were a pair of lips that sang. But, yeah, I'm a huge Beatles fan. Now, the other thing, Jean Ricard, I will tell you is that the one you probably would like to see me run backwards, the red one, it's got a car with a bad bogey, and if I run it in reverse, it will derail. It works fine being pulled, but when it's pushed, it derails. It's got a bad bogey on it. So that guy there. Now I am going to flip my sense of synchrony, not synchronicity, synchrony, requires that my Railjet run the other way now. But I could have been silly and said, no, I don't run them that way, but I mean, I tend not to. I tend to have locomotive in front. I could run my IC2 in reverse. But again, it would be the same problem as the Railjet. The best angles for seeing it, I don't have on camera. Oh my God, Andy, are you in some sort of transcendental meditation where you're channeling the famous American interviewer Barbara Walters? If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? Really? Do you think that's a deep question? I don't know. What kind of train would I be? What would I want to be? I'd want to be a Railjet or an ICE-4. What would I be? A clanky old Alex. Hey, Richard, how are you? Richard, are you going live later today? You haven't gone live for a few Saturdays. I know you're moving and all that, but just because I'm often out working when you go live. Saturdays, 3 o'clock my time. That's height of the day. I'm mowing. I'm working in the gardens now that it's spring. So I tend to be outside, so I always have to watch it later. But if I think about it, I try to be in the house and watch. How many ICEs do I own? I technically own 3 ICEs. I have an ICE-1, which is in California being upgraded, an ICE-2, which is in California being upgraded, and my ICE-3. I then have 2 ICs. I have an IC-1 and an IC-2. The IC-2 is on the layout. The IC-1 is not running today. I actually was thinking of putting them out, but I decided to go leave the Railjet on. So I have 3. Now, I have an ICE-4. I really expected to get the email that it was in my shop this week, and I really thought I might have it as an additional surprise for yesterday's live stream. So now I'm really expecting to get the email Monday or Tuesday this week that it's in my shop, because Märklin has announced the ICE-4s are at the shops, that they have shipped the ICE-4s. In fact, their official webpage says they are sold out at the factory for now, temporarily sold out, and that they should be at your local shop now. But none of the local shops have them in stock yet. Now, I believe these were made at the factory in Hungary. I don't think they were made at their Göppingen, Germany factory. But this was announced over 2 weeks ago that the ICE-4 has been shipped. So I really expected to have gotten the email this past week. So now, well, let's say I thought there was a 70% chance I'd get the email this past week. Didn't. So I'm like, I better get that email this week. It should be in my shop by now. It should be at the German shops by now. No, Jean Ricard, don't worry about that. You're not sabotaging anything. And you are correct. I probably should run them in reverse more. I just don't. And it's just a lazy thing. So no, and you'll notice that I appreciated you asking, and I tried to do it for you. I just tease with the whole synchrony bit, because I do run my trains alternate from each other. But I can't worry about realism. Let me see. Let's see if this guy will do it. Oh, stopped you going uphill. Now I do have to do one other thing. Oh, I left this go. Beep. Darn thing, darn thing, darn thing. There you are. Okay, so I want to change. No, don't do that. Stupid screen. How dare you do that to me? I have to change direction on you. There. I think I've set that up right now. All right, let me put it on the 11 lane. Let me see if he's got the right directions going. So there he goes. I just want to double check a couple of my turnouts to make sure they're not going to mess them up. Okay, we're good. Oops. So there, now I'm running the IC2 backwards. So no. Yes, Jean Ricard, I saw the Märklin summer announcements. And this is always, whoops, let's go this way. No, let's go village view. There we go. Station view. I always have to put a caveat on what I'm about to say. The new Märklin trains are gorgeous, but I'm disappointed in what they're putting out. They got some cool trains, and a lot of people are excited about them, but for me, there was absolutely nothing of interest. It's definitely a smaller assortment than they normally announce in the summer, but I assume that's because of COVID and supply restrictions and such. But there was just nothing that appealed to me. The only Märklin train that I am remotely interested in right now is the ICE4. Everything else is sort of kind of a wait and see. Hey, Leigh, hello and goodbye. Sorry I didn't see you catching in. Now let's go to the all pictures while I babble. Yeah, this one. Yeah. Märklin. I did a video on the history of Märklin, Andy Ambrose, and you know, Märklin's been around for 162 years now. 162 years. They started making model trains in the 1890s, I think it was. And then electric trains in the early 1910s, what have you. And they are the world's largest model train company. You know, but again, most people don't know Märklin. Most Americans, unless they run European trains, don't really know Märklin. But it's the largest model train company there is. And Märklin was family owned until the late 1990s, early 2000s. And Märklin was always considered the best. They were the best trains, period. But in the late 80s through the 90s, a lot of people that I've talked to said their quality went way downhill. And their money went down. And finally, the family had to sell, and they were bought out by a company in, I think, 2006. And that company wound up having to file for bankruptcy. And so that company was putting a lot of money to revamp, and in the early 2000s, Märklin really started improving in quality. But they were bought out in 2010, 2011 by a group called the Simba-Dickey Group, which is just one of these mega corporations that owns everything. And Simba-Dickey put a local German guy, in fact, the son of one of the big shots of Simba-Dickey, which is based in India. It's an India, German, and some other mega corporation. But Florian Schäfer was his name. And Florian just, between 2009 and 2013-14, he totally revamped Märklin. And Märklin's quality, which had been improving, just skyrocketed. But since 2011, under Florian Schäfer, Märklin's been turning yearly profits, which they hadn't done since the early 80s. They have like a 9 or 10 year profit spike. And the last couple of years, it's just skyrocketed. Märklin is back big time. They're making gorgeous trains, and they're also starting to make less expensive locomotives that are still good quality with lots of functions. They're making all these $200. Now, again, let's say about 180 to 220 pound, which I know in the UK market is an expensive locomotive, but these things are coming with 20 to 30 sound and light functions built in, and they're 180 to 220 pounds. And of course, then the standard locomotives are going to be more in the 250 to 350 pound range. And then their really high-end stuff is going to be the equivalent of anywhere from 350 to 500 pounds. I mean, they make a couple of steam locomotives in HO scale, which are $700. So that'd be what, about 580, 600 pounds. So yeah, Märklin is just kicking butt right now, which as a Märklin fan, even a newer Märklin fan, it's nice to see because it's the company I chose to do. My track is Märklin, my control system is Märklin, most of my trains are Märklin, and any other company trains I buy have to be made for the Märklin system. Yes, Andy, bigger than Hornby. Because Märklin, you know, Hornby dominates the UK, okay? Hornby dominates in the UK, and then, yes, you got some Hornby people around the world. Märklin dominates Germany, which is bigger than the UK, but it also dominates Norway, Sweden. It's huge in France. It's huge in Eastern Europe. Märklin is huge in India, and when you add in their Trix affiliates in that. Now, granted, Hornby is owned by a corporation that also owns River Rossi and other companies. But when we talk Hornby sales versus Märklin sales, Märklin, I'm pretty sure, is still bigger. At least when I researched my stuff, and since I started collecting Märklin, Märklin, the largest model train company in the world. But, you know, Märklin is so dominant that the Swedish word for model trains, for any model trains, is Märklin. And that's the bit Martin, who runs Märklin of Sweden train site, when he did that, his original page was a Swedish page, and he was just saying model trains of Sweden. Now, he happens to use a lot of Märklin stuff. I'm trying to remember, because I haven't watched one of his videos in a while. Even though I'm still subscribed, I tend to miss his videos. I'm trying to... I don't think he runs Märklin 3-rail. I think he runs 2-rail trains. Yeah, and Hornby owns... You know, it's like you think about Bachmann, because Bachmann is spread out all over. But, you know, we say Hornby owns River Rossi, which is kind of true, but it's actually the mega corporation that owns Hornby, and then they bought River Rossi and put it under Hornby. But, you know, if we do that, when we compare, Märklin also owns Trix and LGB, you're still bigger. Because River Rossi, I know there's other companies, but River Rossi is a small company. They obviously were Italian, and they specialized in Italian trains. But I'm trying to think who else, and I know I could Google it, but I'm lazy. He does run 3-rail. Okay, I couldn't remember. Thank you, Jean. I could not remember if he did that or not. Whoops, hit the wrong button. Sorry, guys. Silly me. Silly me. All right, time to reverse him the other way again. Now, why do you do that? But, and again, numbers may have changed. But when I got into Märklin 5 years ago, it was still saying we're the largest model train company in the world. Maybe Hornby has passed them now, so I could be out of date too. But Märklin, I mean, when you realize how small the three-rail market is. I heard a bang somewhere. What was that? When you realize how small the three-rail market is compared to how many people do DC, do two-rail. See, we in the three-rail business refer to those who do two-rail as DC, even if you do DCC. Two-rail DC, three-rail AC. Whereas a lot of people use DC to say analog and DCC to be digital. And that's the problem. DC and DCC have now expanded in how people use them. Originally it was analog and digital, and DCC was one of the digital formattings, but DCC became the dominant. It's like in America we call a bandage a Band-Aid. It's not a Band-Aid. Band-Aid is just one brand, but we call it that. So DCC was a language, but it became the dominating language that everybody adopted it. Now we say DCC, meaning digital. So you have analog and digital, and then you have powering, which is AC and DC. But to be AC, you're three-rail, and to be DC, you're two-rail. This is where everybody in the model train, we love to say what a beautiful community we are. We love to say what a beautiful, we all love each other and we all get along until we start talking powering, gauges, and then we fall into our battle cliques again. Yeah, River Rossi, Lima and Lilliput, and Joseph. And Lilliput is growing in size. Lima is, I don't know. When I talk to my friends into the HO European world, Lima is a company that people go, Lima. Lima and Daypool in HO are considered, and I say that, and I'll have a couple of German friends or Dutch friends who go, Daypool's good, I like Daypool. But in consensus, Lima and Daypool are kind of down. That's what most of the people I talk to in Europe and into European trains say when it comes to HO. Again, maybe they're great in double O, maybe they're great somewhere else, but in HO, most people shy away from Daypool and Lima for European trains. I mean, there's a cheap company out of Slovakia called Mahano, and Mahano makes some cool looking trains. And most people will say Mahano trains aren't that great. They're low quality. But I know people that love Mahano and have lots of Mahano trains. And yeah, and again, Märklin also owns Schuco model cars. I want to say Märklin now owns not Wiesmann, but I mean Märklin makes its own stuff. Rocco Fleischmann owns Wiesmann now, I believe. No, what company owns? Crap. What company owns? Like Fowler owns Wiesmann now. Fowler Electronics owns Wiesmann and Keebry and Bulmer. All these different model things. Fowler owns pretty much all of them now. Hey, well, hi, Nancy Mueller. Tell Herb I said hi. Hope he's doing well. And Märklin owns a couple of electronic and they own a paint company. I forget which model paint company Märklin owns now. But they own Schuco. I'd have to look it up. Does Märklin own Prizer now? Is Prizer part of Märklin? The Prizer figurines, are they part? I don't know. Lilliput makes very good N scale stuff. There's a lot of fans of Lilliput. Lilliput and Arnold, for those of you that are into N scale and you want European trains, Lilliput and Arnold make really good. Kato is the master of N gauge, N scale. But Lilliput makes very good, according to other people, not me, because I don't run N scale, can't tell you. But according to the reviews and what I read in forums and so forth, Lilliput makes really good N scale stuff. And Arnold, like Arnold makes ICEs in N scale that are just gorgeous. And not too pricey either. You can get a 12 car ICE 4 set, a 12 car in N gauge, N scale from Arnold for about $450. And it's very well regarded. It's the people that have bought it have said it's a really quality set. So Jean Ricard says, you don't think so? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think they own one of the figurine companies. But it's obviously not Fowler Figures. Because Fowler owns Noch as well now. Fowler owns Noch, I'm pretty sure. And actually I say Fowler owns it. Again, it's a mega corporation that owns Fowler and all these other guys. But if you go to Fowler's webpage, it lists all the brands they now own. Brava, for those who do European trains, Brava is a company that makes awesome, gorgeous locomotives and cars. But Brava, very fine detailed, very exquisite, pricey. But Brava has a history of not getting their stuff out in time. You know, they'll advertise something that won't come out for 4 years. And that's one of the problems. Like, Brava was going to release a car set I really, really wanted. And I waited 4 years for it, and I finally said, screw it. And Märklin announced they were making it. And about the same time Märklin got theirs to market, Brava finally got theirs. And the Brava cars are better in the sense they had more functions, were full true 187 scale as opposed to the Märklin 193.5 scale. In fact, it's the IC2 cars here. Plus, the Brava cars all had end lights that worked. So if you took a car off or didn't run the control cab, the cars light up in the back with tail lights and that. Really, really superior IC2 cars compared to the Märklin ones. And the Märklin ones are nice, but the Bravas were better. And you could do more functions, like you could turn the lights off on the bottom row and leave them on the top level. You know, you could alternate, all kinds of cool little functions like that. But it took Brava so long that I got tired of waiting and bought somebody else. Brava is just horrible with getting their stuff out. And Brava just, I don't know if they bought out, but they acquired. There was this Danish company called Hobby Trade, not Hobby Train, which is a company. There was this Danish company called Hobby Trade, and Hobby Trade made gorgeous cars. Hobby Trade made gorgeous cars, but they went out of business, and Brava was selling Hobby Trade cars through them. So I don't know if they merged or Brava bought them out. And there were some cars from Hobby Trade I wanted, but they're impossible to get. So Hobby Trade was a small Danish company, and they made exquisite cars. Their railjet cars, their metronome cars, their German Regiobahn Doppelstock double-decker cars, like the ones going right below me here, were superior. They were gorgeous cars. When I was in Germany in 2017 and 2019 and talking to model train guys, they're like, yeah, we can't get them, but they are better. The people who buy them, they buy them and don't give them up. But sadly, I guess they couldn't maintain the business, and they went out of business a couple of years ago. So, I mean, there are definitely other companies to collect. I am not blind to Märklin, but I try to stick with Märklin because everything I do is Märklin, and I just think Märklin, if they're, and we can argue about it, I think Märklin does a better job of integrating their system. There's a Roco system out there, but Rocos with their Z21, and the Z21's a great device. I'm not going to bash it. But I don't think Roco trains and other devices and their Easy Track integrate as well as the Märklin C-Track to the Märklin trains to the Märklin controllers. I think Märklin's all in-house system just integrates better. And Roco does a great job of making stuff for the Märklin system. My favorite trains that run on my system that aren't Märklin are from Roco. My Railjet is a Roco, and I am nothing but 100% impressed with it. Now, that Beethoven that just went past, that is my first Jägendorfer locomotive. If you see the Beethoven locomotive when he comes back around again, I'll try to get on the 11 lane here, and he'll be in view in about 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. All right, well, in view in 4 seconds. But here comes Beethoven. This is my first Jägendorfer. Well, hi, Chris. Good morning. But this little guy about to go around, my Beethoven locomotive, that is from the Jägendorfer collection. And it's my first Jägendorfer. And I've always heard very positive things about Jägendorfer. And I will say this. It is a beautiful locomotive. Beautifully detailed. Very fine. But in terms of pulling power, crap. It struggles to pull those 5 cars it's pulling. It struggles. And if my train is struggling to pull 5 lightweight cars, I'm a little disappointed in it. It's a gorgeous train, but it can really seemingly only pull 3 cars easily. It struggles to pull the 5 cars it's pulling. So I'm not, in terms of performance, it runs nicely. It's a gorgeous locomotive, so I give them 100% on the detailing and the fine detailing. I give them 100% in it runs smoothly and great, but I give them a 30% in terms of pulling power. It does not like to pull many cars. Whereas my Class 147 could probably pull 5 times as many cars as it's pulling right now. That Roco, I could probably double the cars that my Roco Railjet is pulling and it wouldn't have a problem. He just pulls. And the funny thing is my freight, we're going to get a bunch of trains here in view in a second, so I'll leave it here. But the Class 147 pulling these red double-deckers, he's powerful. And the Railjet coming through right now is very powerful. The Class 146-5, which is pulling the white double-deckers, the IC2 locomotive, that's very powerful. But my little Beethoven, nah, he's not very powerful. I'd give him a downgrade for pulling power. In my opinion, he should pull these 5 cars, and he's going at a slower speed than his speed dial is set because he struggled. I have to crank him up to get him at the speed I want him. In other words, he's got to be at about 70 miles an hour to be going scale 50 miles an hour. So I think he's a gorgeous loco. I like running him, but I'm disappointed that he should not be struggling pulling these 5 cars. And again, it's not struggling so bad that I don't want him pulling the 5 cars, but it definitely slows him down. He does not have the power that if I crank him up, he doesn't crank up well. So yeah, that's a disappointment. That cheap Alex back there, which was a real cheap loco that I put in, that I had converted to AC, and that came with a basic like 8-pin or 4-pin decoder, and I had a 21-pin decoder put in it. He's got a lot of power. And that's a Pico. That is a Pico El Cheapo. That's a Pico El Cheapo. P-I-K-O. The German company Pico. So, I'd have to say I'm a little disappointed with my first Jägendorfer train. Only slightly. Would it shy me off from buying another one? No, if it was the right one. For example, if I could still find their Mozart, because Rocco made a Mozart, but if I could find the Jägendorfer Mozart locomotive or the Jägendorfer List locomotive for a good price, I would still buy it. But for its looks and its functions, not for how well it pulls cars. Hey, Andy, that is a great question, which will be eternally biased, okay? Just like anybody. I am still, in my opinion, so new to the hobby, and I only know Märklin. And I could bring a ton of European modelers in here. My friend Luma from Portugal, who comes into my live feed sometimes, he does Märklin, but he will argue other companies are better. Märklin just has always dominated because they're the only HO3 rail company. Now, when I say that, yes, Rocco, Pico, and other companies make stuff for 3 rail, but it's specifically made for the Märklin system. But I do believe, and again, here's where we fight. I do believe 3 rail is better than 2 rail in terms of functionality. I do believe 3 rail, because, I mean, stop and think about it. Let's go down to the powering system, alternating current versus DC. Your house is wired AC. Everything in your house is AC current. Why? Because it's the most efficient way of delivering energy. But why is it once you plug something in, why is your coffee pot DC? Why are so many of the small, because DC is cheaper to build. DC track, 2 rail track, is cheaper to build, first of all, because you're only running 2 rails and not 3. You don't have to build a locomotive with the 3rd rail pickup. Plus, a lot of your small engines are DC engines that have to be converted to AC, although I've been told it's actually, most model train engines are AC, and you have to have them converted to DC. So I don't know. This is not my field of expertise. My father was an electrician. I understand electrical current, but I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm not a mechanical engineer. But I do know, I understand alternating current versus direct current, and alternating current is more efficient and better. That if you run, let's say you run a 20-foot long oval, so 20 foot, 5 foot, 10 foot wide, and another 20 foot. If you were to plug a DC control in there, you're going to have a dead spot over there. You're going to have that spot where the trains slow down. The lights flicker in a straight up analog DC system. In an AC system, no, you're not going to have that slowdown area. You will eventually, if you build and add enough, then yeah, even in 3 rail, you could have a dead rail system. But my entire layout here right now, including all my motorized turnouts, has 1 power cord. It has 1 2-rail connection. It has 2 wires plugged into a track right in front of me. I have no bus wiring, no drop wiring anywhere. My entire layout is run by one AC, well, 2 wires connected to one track. I'm running 6 trains, and technically I could double it and put 2 trains. They are running in alternate directions without any dead areas or blocking areas or insulated areas like you have to do with DC and DCC. I don't have to worry about frog points. I don't have to worry about isolating them. My turnouts all work. When I open my turnouts, there's no issue with the current because the current's alternating current, so it doesn't affect anything. When you build a DC or a 2-rail system, you have to isolate them. Also, when you get into, as I always talk about, the Märklin C-rail system, and again, this is where it's unpopular. It's got that, well, let's go to the large cam. I know you guys have all seen this before, but what the heck. Where is it? Nexi Solo, there it is. It's got these nubs down the middle. I don't know how well you're seeing those, but there's your 3rd rail. Those nubs down the middle. To a purist looking from the top, they hate that because, rail tracks don't have that. If you're sitting where I am, you don't really see them. Now, yeah, I see them on the close tracks to me right here, but over there, I don't see them. When the trains are running, I don't see them. But to purists, those rivet counters, they see this and they hate it. It's not real. And when you have the track up, you don't see them. You don't see them at eye level. You don't see the knobs behind there. Okay. Plus, do I have one here I can show you? Is somebody easy to get? No. Plus, that ski, that shoe that runs along these is so much longer. You have multiple contacts, so you have more contact, and thus, as opposed to a couple of powered pickups on a coupler on a wheel, you have power on those skis, so you have a much longer, wider source of pickup. So again, less dead spot areas. And then with the Märklin C track, and by the way, people say this isn't prototypical. Well, in Germany, there are lots of places in Germany where your ballast is exactly this color. I was just watching a video with my students about the German rail system, and half the time they showed the trains, they were running on this color ballast. So this is actually can be prototypical. But a lot of people say it's not realistic because they're used to the white and the gray, and you see a lot of the white and gray rocks ballasting even in Germany. But a lot of Germany has this dark gray ballasting. But people say this isn't. So that's why it's not as big as it would be. But if I want to connect a signal, and I don't own any signals, but if I want to connect a signal, instead of having to drop a wire, connect it to a bus wire, and run it to a system, I can, if I buy the right signals. It clips onto my track here, and I plug it in right there. No drop wires. It just plugs right into the track, and then I control it from my central station 3. And and then when you want to digitize a turnout, instead of having that big motor, that big power motor underneath in Germany, or with C-Track, and other companies make these as well. Here's my decoder. Here's the motor. It plugs in right here. Again, no cut holes, no drop wires. Now, Andy, this is where electricians and electrical engineers love to fight. And my dad used to tell me there's electrical engineers and electricians, and there's theory and there's reality. And I don't have a degree in either. I know how to fix wires in my house. I know how to run wires through my house. This whole basement lighting system was done by me, including the flickering light, because there's a touchy wire up there that I need to, but it's actually, it was the device. It wasn't me. The light went bad because it's an LED light, El Cheapo. But anyhow, is DCC theoretically AC? Yes, theoretically. But in actual practice, you still have to put a lot of those DC protections in. You know, if you're running DC power, You're still having to isolate things. You're having to isolate your turnouts. You're having to isolate. I don't have to in AC. If you're running 2 loops in DCC on a 2-rail system, you still have to do some isolation. With 3-rail, the only time you're isolating is if you're doing blocks, where you want to run these tracks separately and have a different program on this one than this one. So yes, you still can do isolation, and if you're doing block detection, you still have to do isolation. That's why that guy from Australia, and a couple of you talked about it, and a couple of people talked about where he was doing that video. Those of you who say DCC is only 2 wires, and he flips up his board, you're wrong. Look at all the wiring I have to do. Well, he's doing all those wirings because he's running all these lights and signals and block detection and everything else and motorized turnouts. Okay? It's not, in all systems, analog, digital, you start with 2 wires to supply the power. Okay? You start with 2 wires. You're going to add wires depending on what you want to add to it, whether DC or DCC. If you're running digital, and I'm going to start using digital instead of DCC, but if you're running digital, you're doing less wiring. Even if you've got 6 wires running, it's less than if you were trying to do the same thing in analog. Because you have to, because from analog, you're trying to do the digital stuff. And but with 3-rail, it's just more efficient, but it's more expensive. And again, I can compare 3-rail to 2-rail the same way you can compare Sony Betamax to VHS. Betamax had a lot of superior qualities, maybe a couple of weaknesses, but VHS was cheaper and had a more applicable use to the ordinary person. So VHS won in the end. Does DCC need cleaner track? I don't know if that's true. I've heard fights about it. The thing is, again, when you're running DC, you've got so many points. You've run your power points so many places that it can it can compensate for dirty track. Let's put it that way. So you're right, you can have cleaner, dirtier track because you've got so many access of power points that the dirty track, you still got enough juice flowing through it that the dirty track's not an issue. Where if you're going to do like me, boom, boom, 2 wires in and say, I'm good to go all digital, then yeah, I need to clean my track more. That being said, for as much as I run my trains, I don't clean my track nearly enough. I should be cleaning my track every week for as often as I run my trains. I clean my track maybe once every 2 months. I oil my locomotives, because you're supposed to oil your locomotives after every, my locomotives, some say 10 hours of running, some say 20 hours, but I have a chart and okay, I'm going to do it, I try to re-oil them. Do I take them apart and clean the inside? No, I'm very bad about that. I'm scared to take my locomotives apart because I'm scared I'll break something. That's why whenever I need something fixed, I send it to a pro instead of learning to do it myself. Because between shaky hands and being a rookie, I'm scared to touch my locomotives. If I mess it up, my attitude is, I messed it up, I pay for it. You guys that have been doing it for a long time, I messed it up, I'm going to fix it. My attitude is, I messed it up, I'm going to pay somebody else to fix it. Plus, I keep somebody employed. I'm at the stage where I can afford to pay somebody else to fix it. When I was young, I did all my own car work. But now I don't like getting under a car to fix things. I don't like ripping out the wiring myself. So I take it to a garage and I pay somebody to fix it for me. I used to do all my dad, if there were an afterlife, if my dad had a ghost, he his ghost would be beating the crap out of me for all the things I now pay somebody else to repair because I got tired of doing it. Because my dad taught me to fix everything. He taught me to fix the plumbing. He taught me to fix my lighting. He taught me to fix drywall. He taught me to fix my car. And now I'm old. And I'm not as old as some. But I don't like crawling under a car in a cold garage. I don't like going out to the junkyard in a snowy February afternoon and laying in mud and snow, ripping out a condenser out of an 87 Caravan so I can put it in my 89 Caravan. When I was a kid, I didn't really like it then, but I did it. But I don't like it anymore, so I will pay somebody to do it. That said, I have rebuilt most of this myself because I couldn't have redone this basement if I paid pros. And I know how to do drywall and plumbing enough that I did this basement. But certain things I've called in a plumber or an electrician to say, I don't want to mess with that. I don't trust that. So anyhow, that's my rant. Hey, Andrew, welcome in. Yeah, Jean Ricard and ESU is now doing it now. ESU sells one locomotive and then they sell you add this and flip this switch and it's AC or DC. If you want AC, add this and switch that. And I think that's brilliant because you can buy any locomotive and switch it either way. Now, having said that, I've got some ESU cars. I haven't bought an ESU locomotive yet because to me, their price is still high, but maybe it's worth the quality. But I could still get something from Märklin that ESU makes it and get it from Märklin for quite a bit cheaper. And people talk about you were mentioning the Unitrack and the like the Kato track system. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of everybody's trying to make it. Hope you guys don't take offense to this, but I call Märklin and the C-Track system. I call it digital for dummies. Okay, I call it digital for dummies because it's made so that a complete newbie into model trains can be completely digital like that. Okay, now everybody knows I've got this expensive Central Station 3 controller here. Let me pull this camera. I hate to mess with this camera, but not that camera. Not that camera. This camera. Everybody knows I've got this very expensive Central Station 3, okay? This cost me, and I got it on discount, this cost me $500 plus $30 shipping. They list priced at $700. So I paid the equivalent of about 410 pounds for it, and they technically cost about 630 pounds. Although, again, I don't know what import charges England would put on it to make it cost prohibitive. But that is my primary controller. And this thing does everything at a touch. Touch screen, everything. All my turnouts are controlled from here. I can directly control 10 trains across, but I can run 50, 100. I can run an unlimited number of trains on this through this system. There is actually a limit. I think it's 960 trains I could control with this. But the number is so ridiculous, nobody will ever reach that. But for $100, this little thing does almost everything that does. This is the equivalent of your basic digital controllers. This is called the mobile station, which I think is misnamed because while it is mobile, I can move it around. It is wired. You either wire it to a power plug or you wire it into the central station. Now, I can control up to 50 trains, but I can only directly control one at a time. And I get their functions. And I can control my turnouts, but to get to my turnouts, I have to hit I have to hit the turnout button like this. And now I can control my turnouts. But it's additional button hitting and scrolling through everything. See, there's the left hand going, so let me get you off there before you get sick. Do it again, bow, bow, bow. Let's see if I put that in a place where I'm happy with it. No. Nope, I want it watching this corner and the train's coming up right about there. That's about where I had it, where I want it. All right, so this mobile station does almost everything. I can program a train with the mobile station. I can change its CVs. And that's a $100 digital controller. You just have to do a bit more work, where with the big controller, I've got a screen. I can't do track design that I can do with my Central Station 3. I can program my track into it and then run, if I had block detection, I could program that all in with my Central Station 3. So if you have a Central Station 3, you technically don't need to buy train controller programs, because you can do it all with your Central Station 3. Now, having said that, a lot of people like train controller and those other computer programs, but technically you can do that all straight through a Central Station 3, which is why it's so pricey, because it is a computer. It is a digital controller and a computer. It's a laptop computer that's designed to run your layout. So I can program, I could have a system set up with blocks everywhere, and then through my Central Station 3, just like in train controller, I can program, I forget what you call it, but like shows, operations. I can say this train will pull out at this time, and it will pull around and go. It'll stop at this station. It'll run through the station twice. Stop it. I can do that all in my Central Station 3, just like you can do it. But it's all here. And yeah, Jean Ricard, that's what I like to call it. Plug and play or digital for dummies. But the thing is, even though I call it digital for dummies, it's also designed that the most advanced trained people would sit down and go, I love it. Now, there's the ECOS, the ESU ECOS, does the exact same thing. It's, pick your poison. The Z21 does so many great things, but then you do need, for some things, the Z21 to be in conjunction with other stuff. My Central Station 3 can do everything a Z21 can do. The only difference is the Z21 comes with its own router, where Märklin, you have to add a router. But otherwise, like my Central Station 3 is hardwired into my internet. But yes, I can buy a router and take my Central Station 3 anywhere. And once I have my, just like, well, let me unplug it here for a second. Just like the Central Station 3, or I'm sorry, whoops, did I just close you? Because I'm an idiot. See, I touched something and I mess up. Come on, work you, commie. But just like your Z21, I can take my tablet and control my Central Station 3. This is my 6 trains running, plus my 2 powered control cabs, Steuerwagen, my 2 powered Steuerwagen here. And I can change trains. Everything the Z21 lets you do, hey, you can run it. So I can do it like this. And then I could do it on my phone. So I can do it on my phone as well, so I can control all my trades. But again, on the phone I control, is it, But like even on my phone, again, I could control up to 8 trains, or I could split it and control my turnouts with some of it and trains with the other. So just like the Z21. Now the Z21 is a couple $100 cheaper because the Z21 doesn't have the computer built into it, display screen, where you have to use a different program or an app from them and do your layout design and everything. Whereas the Märklin, it's all built in. So, I mean, my biggest thing is like when I look at you guys in the UK or some of the American guys, why isn't there a comparable American system? And I know people get the Digitracks and they get the NCE controllers and these things, and they're great, the Gauge Masters, but they don't have the fluidity. They don't have the, you know, when you have that NCE, you're like, okay, I want to work on this train. Click, button, button. Okay, now this train's up. Oh, now I want to control that train. Okay, hang on. Blip button, whoops. Wait, I want to change the CV code. Okay, function, blip button, blip button, blip button. Here, where here it's all dial, 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 press button, go. And yeah, and I'm a newbie, and I told some people this. I did get a email from Märklin USA, and when I first saw the email from Märklin Digital USA, I was like, wait, they found my channel and they want to partner with me. And no, they wanted to point out that you've got a lot of mistakes on your show. You're really doing a great job, but there are some errors. And if you'd like to work with us, not in a, but we will be glad to send you the information to tell you what you're doing wrong. So I was like, okay, send the information and tell me what I'm doing wrong. I haven't heard from them since. What did I say wrong? What in my videos was misinformation? Because again, when I talk about stuff, the engineers, there's designers, there's engineers, and there's users. And the three of them all have different points of view. Just like an electrical engineer, I have seen when I was little, my dad, the electricians fighting with the electrical engineer. The electrical engineer, well, this should be working this way. It's not working that way. It doesn't work that way. You know, you're designing it, we're building it, and it doesn't work. Yeah, Chris, still a youngster. I know we're young. I mean, I'm 57, but you're old enough to be my much older brother or a mistaken young dad. Oh, let's beep. That's from Joyce. I have to go do the laundry. So let me leave you on some trains running while I go move the laundry. I'll be right back. I'll be right over there. All right, Jean Ricard, take care. Bye. I'm back there. Laundry. Jackie, goodbye. Anybody else taking off? I'm going to have to end this soon anyhow. I got some yard work I really should attend to soon, but it's a beautiful day outside. I really should be outside, but I wanted to come and mess with my trains a bit because I didn't mess with them much last night. Again, I want to thank everybody for the support with the Matt Clark stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed the final episode. I'm sure Matt Clark will come back some way, somehow. My daughter and I are talking about where I would keep the format using pictures, still pictures to tell the story. But we're going to try to find a way where we can take the images and cartoonize them, make them cartoon where it would still be recognizable. That's my Matt Clark character, but it's a cartoon and no longer a copyright issue, where I could maybe go further with this, where I could start with that image, and there's a way you could kind of, like a caricature of that image where it's no longer the licensable image, because most of the pictures I used are not copyright issues. They are old pictures, and as long as I did not directly source them from their source, like the picture of Madame Lotte. That is an old picture. It is no longer protected by copyright, even though there's somebody who has that picture in a museum or whatever, and they own that picture, and they can own licensing and distribution of that picture from them. But the image itself has been published and put out so much, it's no longer copyright. But the image of Matt Clark, the actor Jim Davis, that is copyrighted. The image of Smokey is not technically copyrighted, but technically any photograph you take, anything you write is immediately copyrighted by law. But because it's the image of a living person, that person, me using that person's image to, because a lot of you thought it was a picture of me as a kid. I wish it were. I wish I were that cute as a kid. And I don't have access to pictures of me at that age. Otherwise, I might try to flip them in because I'd say, it's close enough to Smokey, it'll work. That person is alive and well and living in Utah, and they could say, hey, you can't use my image to make money. Since I'm not making money, since I'm just making these, putting them out, it's not technically a copyright issue. I mean, the person could contact me and say, hey, get my image off your page. And if I wanted to be belligerent, I'd say you'd have to sue me, and then odds are I'd probably win the case because it was put up in a public forum, which made it public access. But the minute I started saying earning money on my page, then they would suddenly, it would reverse, and they would have the right over me because I am making money off their image. But again, how am I going to make money off of any of this? I'm not. Well, Christopher, the thing is, we would take the actual photograph. But there's a way you can then fill in and make cartoon caricatures of that image. I still could not animate them and make them move or put them in different poses. Now, yes, there's somebody who could, but then I would have to pay that person to do it. Or I'd have to learn how to do it. But we could take the Jim Clark image, colorize it, cartoonize it, where it's no longer recognizable as that specific photograph, or that it's specifically recognizable where somebody would look at that and go, hey, that's Jim Davis. I would also have to change the name of the show and the main character. I could not use Matt Clark. He would have to get a name. I could make a Mark Clark Railroad Detective, Mike Clark Railroad Detective, and then I'm okay. But as Matt Clark, I'm stealing, is it CBS owns the, there's some company that owns the copyright issue to his name. All right, take care. We will see you, Lee. So, and my daughter is not, she's a graphic designer, but not an animator. So none of us, nobody in my family knows how to animate, where you can create a cartoon character and work them. So we would create cartoon versions of those images that are thus no longer copyright, because my daughter actually knows the laws on this stuff, and she says it has to be, they actually have a number, can you believe this? It has to be a 30% variance. That's the legal term. A 30% variance from the original image. What is 30%? Or no, 70% variance of the original. How do you look at that and go, I'm sorry, that's 69.3% variance. But that's the actual number. It has to be varied by 70%. So again, you take that Matt Clark picture I have. You draw an outline of it. You create a cartoon voice. You don't change the pose at all. I still put my hand-drawn mustache in. That would be enough to be considered a variance. If I just took the picture and colorized it, that wouldn't be a variance. It would be a variance, but not enough of one. So, but I would just do that with all the characters. And again, I would have to change his name. He would no longer be Matt Clark. But, I mean, I could even do Clark Matt, Railroad Detective. But, you know, if I were to come up with a different licensable picture or, you know, I think people would still look at it and go, wait, that's not Smokey. You know Smokey because you've seen that one picture 100 times. It would be, in my head, it would be wrong. But if I could do, like my daughter did with the t-shirt I was wearing yesterday, she did an outline of Smokey, but then she exaggerated she took that image and did an outline of it, and then she just made the ears stick out a little bit more, and she exaggerated the chin just a bit, where you all could look at that and go, hey, that's that image of Smokey, but it's not that person. So if I added a cartoon face to that, same idea, then yeah, I'll do it as animated. So I'll probably look into how I could do it. Because sadly, I've already got a couple of ideas. I've toyed with taking them to Germany and working on the Orient Express. Obviously, Four Finger Bill escaped, so you have a villain for the sequel. And again, as I was saying earlier in the stream, I find it hysterical so many of you like Bill. I take that as a skill that I can take a man who has now murdered 13 people and you like him. You know, when you meet him, he tells Dan D, I have killed 12 men. I'm a wanted man. I have killed 12 men. And when he blows Bobby away, he goes, 13. And I've got people going, I'm so glad he got away. I really like Bill. And Joyce is like, I like Bill. I'm so glad you didn't kill him. He's a killer. He's a murderer. But that's the art of comedy. You could take horrific people and make it funny. You have to exaggerate it. I mean, if you seriously think about any comedy, and that's the danger of comedy, you can make things really, really, you know, and you could take tragic things and put humor in them. But the audience can dictate, should you have? Because we all like to throw out the term snowflakes and people complain too much. But again, all right, you know, and there's a difference between me. I mean, if you read all Smokey's rants, this child has been exposed to a lot of sexuality at a young age. And you'll have somebody go, that's not funny, that happened to me. Okay, something bad happened to everybody, but all comedy is based in tragedy of other people. Their stupidity, their bad luck. all comedy is based in the stupidity of the reader or the people in the stupidity of the audience or the tragedy of the characters in the joke. All humor is based, no matter what you think is funny, it's because it played on either gullibility, stupidity, or tragedy. But there's a difference between making a joke that's funny or being funny because you're putting down an entire group of people. And I got a dislike yesterday, and I assume it's because I was talking about being politically correct, and a lot of people like to throw that term out. Everybody's politically correct about something, all right? Let's not act like politically correct was invented 5 years ago and is making our lives miserable. All right? Are we more politically correct today? Maybe. Should we be? Probably. You look at the cartoons we drew 150 years ago, the racial stereotypes, the hate towards Irish people, Italian people, black people. We shouldn't have done that. We shouldn't have done it then, and we shouldn't do it now. Now, are some jokes about those stereotypes funny? They can be. But as I was saying yesterday, it's the situation that makes it funny, or at least in good comedy, it's the situation that makes it funny, not the person you're deriding or mocking. Yeah. No, she is. That is not her genre, Christopher. That is not where her skill lies. She's just we're gonna work on cartooning the faces. She's also gonna design a bunch of shirts. Joyce has, if you guys have been following the mainstream, Joyce is the banker of the family. She runs the checkbook. Now that doesn't mean she's in charge and I can only, but anytime money's gonna get spent, we talk about it. Hey, can I buy this $500 train? And I know if I put my foot down, I could do it. I can do what I want, but we don't work that way. We're a team. But at the same time, Joyce is more concerned about money than me. So Joyce is waiting for me to go to 1,000 because she's like, well, maybe you could monetize and maybe you could get an extra 5, 10, 20 bucks a week and put that towards your train money. She's a little greedier than I am. She's a little bit more capitalistic than I am. So Joyce is liking the idea of me opening a Teespring shop and selling t-shirts. But here's the thing. For example, if you weren't on the live stream yesterday, you saw my Smokey t-shirt. That's good to go. She talked about the licensing issue with the t-shirt, but found out it was covered. So the font on the t-shirt is covered. I can start selling those. If you like that, it's all a bunch of horse poop t-shirt. And a couple of you here said you would buy one. Well, I may open up a shop and put you to the test. She had that onesie for my grandson that said, "Aw, shucks." Now, I can't copyright the phrase "aw, shucks," but if I put the Smokey face logo on it, I could copyright that with the "aw, shucks." But either way, I could sell it. I could sell it as she did. She made a onesie for her son, my grandson, and it was cool. I think she told Joyce yesterday, she's like, "Dad didn't seem as excited about the onesie." As like, actually I really was, and I was blown away by it, but I was running trains and trying to get everything set up. I couldn't focus on it. And I was all uptight about showing the final scene yesterday. But the t-shirt that blew me away was the one my daughter surprised me with on Wednesday, the one Joyce wore yesterday. Go back and check that out. Go back. If you don't remember it, check out the t-shirt Joyce wore. It's Lil Damn It. That is hysterical. I love that shirt. It became a catchphrase of the show. There's just one little problem. On the back, my daughter wrote Nancy McGill and the Nancy Boys. Now, because we're using the name Nancy McGill, do the Beatles own a copyright on that name? Her name was McGill, and she called herself Lil, and everybody knew her as Nancy. that is a very dark gray area about whether I could sell that shirt and not have the Beatles licensing people, who are very belligerent, come down on that, saying you're using the name and lyrics from a Beatles song, thus it's Beatles property. And I could argue back, I'm using Nancy McGill, and her name is Lil, so yeah, you got me, but it's a very dark gray area about selling that shirt, because I love that shirt. So one shirt we are going to do, we're going to design, is we're going to do same thing, but it's going to be a Rusty Twanger World Tour. Rusty Twanger 1892 World Tour, and list, on the back it'll have all the names of the cities, Big Gulch, 3 Days, Paradise City, Amarillo, Santa Fe. We're gonna I think that shirt would be kind of funny, but the image is of an actual living person, and we couldn't do that, so we need to create a cartoon image of that Rusty Twanger. Or I could even just have the banjo on it, and we'll see if people go for that, because I would wear that. I am going to make that shirt one way or the other, and I'll start offering stuff on Teesprings, I guess, because Joyce really wants to see if we could sell some stuff on Teespring. And the nice thing about Teespring is some of these sites, you have to pay them up front for so many t-shirts, whatever, and then you sell them. Teesprings, it's pay. They sell the t-shirt, they take their cut from it and sell you the rest. Yeah, I might meet Paul and Ringo. No, you don't meet them in court, you meet their lawyers. Paul would be wherever Paul is, going, how'd the case come out? Did you beat that little bastard into the ground? Oh, that might be more like Ringo. Peace and love, but bury the bastard. How dare he steal our music? We need our extra £2. Hi, dear. How are you? Okay. No, I haven't eaten lunch yet. Sure, hit Mickey D's. Okay, yeah, I am actually live. Yeah, I went online. In fact, you're live right now. Hang on. There, now you can say it.
Hi, everybody.
There you go. So, yeah, I was just talking about doing Teesprings. I was just running my trains to make sure the trains were okay from last night, and I've been on for an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours now. All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye. So, yeah, so, yeah, I would, my daughter's bringing her computer over tomorrow, and we're going to do some designs and start selling, because we have to send the design over to Teesprings, and she has to send the file to make it a clear print. In other words, where just the outline would print up. We have to send that to them, and then they use it, and then you go on and say, I want this t-shirt, or, because, I don't know, I still want a logo for my channel, and start selling the logo, and maybe have a t-shirt that Model Train Outsider. Boy, Chris, we're kidding, but she hasn't forgiven you for the cow joke last week. You're going to have to sweet talk her a lot. She hasn't forgiven you. She was looking at, you remember we sent a squad after Lee, because Lee had promised to run some trains and then he didn't deliver, and we sent a squad. They're still over there. They're still hanging in Liverpool, but that's not too far from you. Yeah, you forgot. But I thought that it's Lil Damn It t-shirt, I thought that was awesome. I mean, my daughter is an artist. I feel guilty that when she was little, I didn't have her in more art classes. She is skilled beyond belief. She got her degree in all kinds of, she's an amazing photographer. She ran her own sign making company. She still does, but she had an office, and she was making signs for, well, she still does, signs for restaurants, for businesses, everything else. but she was making all the signs for the University of Bowling Green, all their signs at the school, a big university here. She was doing street signs and other things for the city of Bowling Green, and some other stuff. She worked at newspapers, but she ran her own business. She still runs her own business, but a couple of years ago she had to scale it way down because she took the business over from the previous owner. And when the previous owner quit the business, he took their best truck and a lot of their best stuff and left her the crappy truck. And she tried to get a small business loan to get a new truck. They denied her because she had just bought a house. And she limped on and limped on. But she wanted to pay 4 workers full-time wages, and she just couldn't do it without the small business loan to let her turn it around. So she had to scale it. She closed the office shop, moved it to an in-house business, and now she doesn't do some of the big, because she would make big metal signs and big lit up full signs, and now she does she kept the vinyl signage business and the imprint business, but she doesn't do the big, multi-$1,000 design signs because she needed a new truck. The truck she had was a health hazard. And she needed that small business loan to let her buy a new truck and cover the transition time for wages of hiring full-time people. And the banks denied her the loan because she had just got married and bought a house. And they said, well, you got all your money in there. She's like, this is a business, and I've got the business money here. But they denied her anyhow. I know my daughter probably doesn't like me talking her private business there, but she is an amazing talent. All parents think their kids are talent, but there's a reason she was very successful, and by the age of 25 was running her own sign making business. She took it over. She was 25, 26 when she took the business over from the previous owner and ran it for several more years until her truck just kept breaking down and she was without a truck to do the bigger part of her things. And I just felt bad. But she still does a lot of it. She has an Etsy store where she does other design things, although the Etsy store was closed down because she had her baby here and she just didn't want to be, she's running an in-house business. She's a mother, so she's taking care of the baby. Dad works at an office, and so she stays at home as a mom, but still runs her sign business. But she's an amazing talent. I mean, I would hire her for any sign making thing. The problem is her dad, honey, could you make me this? Said, well, Dad, I've got this job and this job and this job. And I'm like, I'm a customer. I'll pay. But she did have some free time here and did do these t-shirts, which were amazing. But the Lil Damn It, again, if you didn't see it yesterday, go back to the live stream early on. Joyce has the coolest t-shirt ever made. I love it. I should take a photograph from the live feed and just post it. The back is as cool as the front. On the front, it just says, it's Lil Damn It. On the back, it says Nancy McGill and the Nancy Boys Western Territories Tour 1891. And it's just so cool. And then It's All a Bunch of Horse Poop shirt was also cool. And that is a clear design that you can put on any color t-shirt and just the outline shows up. But anyhow, many of you have been here for a while. I'm up to 19. Yes, I'm so tickled to have a grandson. And love my kids, love my grandson. And all my kids are talented. I got lucky, if you want to call it lucky. All 3 of my kids are very creative, very talented. I'm not so idiotic to go, my children are perfect. No, but I'm not perfect. Their mother's not perfect. And you can't be perfect. But I definitely would not ever rip my children and say anything negative about them. Because they're great kids. They're they're all creative and talented, but they're better human beings. The artistic talents they have is not as important as the fact that they like their mother and father. They like people. They like humans. They treat people with respect, unless those people cross them. And then, like their dad, you can cross me and I'll come down hard. But overall, they're good people, and that's what Joyce and I are proudest of. Not their academic accomplishments or their artistic accomplishments. They're good people. But yeah, I'm very proud of the creative work she does, and yeah, those T-shirts are awesome. So I'm probably going to be opening a Teespring shop. I part of me is just like, no. I would be just as likely to give away the T-shirts, but considering the work my daughter's putting into it, because literally I would just print the T-shirts up and give them away to friends. But considering this is a job my daughter's doing, so we should make sell them instead, and pay my daughter for the work she's done. So anyhow, Joyce is coming home and she has work she'd want me to do, so I better get off the internet. And it was awesome. My trains were running great today after I accidentally left a turnout open. Actually, I don't think I left it open. I know I closed it because I ran the trains as a test run Thursday night to make sure everybody was good to go and running smooth. And so I don't know why that turnout was open. I don't know if little gremlins came out and opened it, or when I turned the device on, if there was a power surge and it popped it open, or if I bumped the turnout on my PlayStation when I was moving one of the screens. I might have done that. I might have clipped it open and not caught I popped it, but usually you get a little flash that says you operated it. But yeah, I got to get off and let somebody else on the world stream, and I need to eat and do my job. So I'm going to tell everybody, Auf Wiedersehen and Tschüss. Thanks for popping in. Appreciate everything you guys say. I appreciate the comments on the video. Again, I know it sounds petty or needy. Maybe it is. But even if you're in the live streams, just drop a comment and say what you like, what you didn't like, about the shows, about the trains. Ask questions about trains. Give me grief about something I got wrong. But just let me know. So anyhow, Auf Wiedersehen, Tschüss, and happy train.